This map shows generating stations that are no longer in existence. At the top of the diagram are the two Adams plants, and at the bottom are the Schoellkopf plants. In much of the literature, old and new, the names of these plants have been used interchangeably. We need to make it clear now that in this video we will refer to the Adams plants as plant number 1 or number 2. The Schoellkopf stations will be called stations 1, 2, or 3. Most articles and videos that deal with the Schoellkopf generating station discuss the third plant, 3A, 3B, and 3C. This is the one that collapsed into the Niagara River in 1956. Here, we'll deal mostly with the earlier plants and begin in the 1880s. Before the Schoellkopf plants, water power on the Lowell, Massachusetts Canal had been in use for several decades. Because of their success, serious consideration was given to a similar project for the Niagara River at Niagara Falls. In 1825, Augustus and Peter B. Porter issued an invitation to develop the power at Niagara Falls. Several years passed before a serious response was received. This project proposed a hydraulic canal to conduct a large volume of water to a reservoir located above the riverbank, about 1.5 miles below the falls. Power would be available from the 200-foot fall of water to the river below. However, it would be several decades before any serious interest was shown. Then, in 1852, a consortium from Boston and New York entered into a contract with the heirs of Augustus Porter for the acquisition of the lands necessary to build the canal and terminal basin. This organization, called the Niagara Falls Hydraulic Company, was incorporated March 19th for the purpose of digging a canal from the upper rapids of the Niagara River to a point just below Niagara Falls on the American side. However, insufficient capital was available and the project was put on hold. The first water over the high cliff was in 1857. After several ownership and name changes, the Falls Canal Company completed the canal in 1877, but financial problems resulted in a mortgage foreclosure. The entire property was sold at auction to Jacob F. Schoellkopf and Associates of Buffalo on May 1st for $71,000. This is approximately equal to $3 million in 2026. Gaskell's Mill was the first to use the power from the high bank system. By 1881, mechanical power was being drawn from 2 American cast iron turbine wheels, producing 900 horsepower under a 50-foot head of water. This 1895 photo shows several industries that were using power furnished by Schoellkopf's Hydraulic Power Company. Wheels operating under a head of 86 feet drove the paper mill and several small factories. The spent water was discharged down the bank to the river below. All power was direct drive mechanical in those early days. The turbine drove their loads directly through mechanical shafts and pulleys. They did not drive electrical generators. All of them are direct mechanical drive. Moving from left to right, we have the Central Milling Company, Niagara Wood Paper Company, Schoellkopf and Matthews Flouring Mills, Pettibon Paper Company, Gaskell's Cataract Milling Company, City Water Works, Cliff Paper Company, and Oneida Community. All their plants received their power by mechanical means. That is to say, power was transmitted to the factories and then to the machinery using shafts, pulleys, belts, and chains. Shown here is a pigeon's eye view of these industries. Note that the direction of the flow of the Niagara River is north, to the left. Main Street is pretty much in the same location today, 2026, as it was in 1895. Virtually everything else has changed, however. One local referred to the area as being Robert Moses to death. The canal, as originally excavated, was only 35 feet wide and 8 feet deep, with a capacity of 13,000 horsepower, if used under the full head of 210 feet. But because the early turbines could not use the full head, only about 6,000 horsepower could be produced. In 1892, the canal company began an enlargement of its canal to give a total capacity of upwards of 50,000 horsepower. Early that year, the Cliff Paper Company was looking to increase their plant capacity by about 2,500 horsepower for a new wood pulp mill. Not wanting to wait for the enlargement of the canal to be completed, they agreed to take water from their existing discharge tunnel through, shown here, and reuse it in a mill located lower down at the edge of the river. Work began in May 1892. An 8-foot diameter pipe was laid from the mouth of the existing tunnel along the slope of the bank to the basement of the new pulp mill. This water is then directed to the turbines located on the floor above. This building would soon become known as Station Number 1 of the Hydraulic Power and Manufacturing Company. The James Leffel Company built several turbines used on the Niagara River, including those for the Cliff Paper Company. These turbines were similar to a Francis turbine in that the water flow was in through the turbine runner instead of out of it. The runner was double, diverting flow into 2 discharge tubes. Shown here is a typical double discharge runner. The turbine was installed over a discharge pit. The water input pipe was, as shown here, between the 2 downward discharge tubes. The first turbines drove 4 grinders directly. Grinders were on the top floor with the turbines located in the basement. The manufacture of pulp in this new facility commenced March 13, 1893. Data from Electrical World, April 11, 1903, page 601. It was in this paper company's building that electrical generators would be installed. It is shown here as item 8. This was the beginning of Niagara Falls being at the forefront of electrical power generation at the turn of the 20th century. Soon after, more generators would be added. This would become known as Station Number 1. Station Number 1 contained horizontal 250 RPM double discharge turbines as follows: 5 of 2,900 horsepower turbines, 1 of 2,800 horsepower, 3 of 1,600 horsepower, 4 of 2,300 horsepower, 1 of 1,900 horsepower. It's not clear from the Electrical World article what turbines drove what generators. No mention is made in the article of electrical loads for the single 1,900 horsepower turbine and one of the 2,300 horsepower turbines. This likely means that these turbines were supplying mechanical power to some load in the Cliff Paper Company. We can see here that the Pittsburgh Reduction Company, soon to be renamed the Aluminum Company of America, is the largest load on the station. This was to remain the case up to the point that the Station Number 3 fell into the Niagara River. According to Orrin Dunlap, writing in Cassier's magazine, construction of this station began in 1896. To perform this work, it was necessary to clear the site of broken rock and boulders. This was accomplished by means of a device known as hydraulic monitor that projected a stream of high-pressure water toward the cliff face. Shown here is a sectional drawing showing Station Number 2. An early view of the generator hall shows 2 turbines in operation. The turbine nearest the camera had 2 generators, one on each side of the turbine. Another set is under construction in the background. It appears from the table in Coote's book on page 17 that by 1906, Station Number 1 was not in operation. As we can see here, nothing is said about Station Number 1. However, there was still 7,991 mechanical horsepower being supplied to the several local industries, including the Cliff Paper Company. These may well have been from those turbines still left in what had up until recently been Station Number 1. Now, Station Number 2 is shown as supplying a large number of loads, the majority of which are electrical. This raises the question, what happened to the machinery in Station Number 1? It's difficult to believe that all the turbines and generators that were in operation in Station Number 1 have been abandoned less than 15 years after they were installed. Some that were already driving mechanical loads were likely still in use there, with some of the other turbine generator sets transferred to Station Number 2. It's not clear from this report what actually happened. We'll just briefly touch on Station Number 3. This station has been covered in several videos and at least one article published in the Power magazine of the IEEE. Construction began in 1903 and completed in 1913. The total rated installed capacity of first phase, known as Station 3A, was 132,000 horsepower. This would be followed by 3A and 3B, shown here. Notice the gap between 3B and Station Number 2, where 3C will be built. In this photo, Station 3C has been completed and Station Number 2 to the right of it has been demolished. Notice the vertical feature in the photo. Station 3's claim to fame was the classic rock slide that demolished the entire station in 1956. Starting around 5 o'clock p.m. on the 7th of June, 1856, a rock slide began on the cliff behind the station. It lasted for less than 15 minutes, but when it was over, Station 3B and C were destroyed and 3A was damaged. All units in the entire station were a total loss. Again, the vertical feature is prominent. This photo was taken in the circa 1990. The tail race slots are left from the Schoellkopf Station No. 3. When the water level was low, you could see the top of the turbine runners just protruding above the water. Notice the wall at the right of the photo. This vertical feature and the tail race slots are still visible. Shown here is the Maid of the Mist landing, taken in 2024. Again, the vertical feature is prominent.
All day I face the barren waste without the taste of water, cool water. Old Dan and I with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, cool, clear water. The nights are cool and I'm a fool, each star's a pool of water, cool water. And with the dawn I'll wake and yawn and carry on to water, cool, clear water. Keep a-moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's the devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with water. Dan, can you see that big green tree where the water's running free and it's waiting there for you and me? Water, cool, clear water. The shadows sway and seem to say, tonight we pray for water, cool water. And way up there he'll hear our prayer and show us where there's water, cool, clear water. Keep a-moving, Dan, don't you listen to him, Dan. He's the devil, not a man, and he spreads the burning sand with water. Dan, can you see that big green tree where the water's running free and it's waiting there for you and me? Water,